For more on the deadly terror attacks overseas, sparking new fears that ISIS is broadening its reach. Let's bring in Tom Joscelyn. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies and senior editor of the Long War Journal. So Benjamin Hall was bringing us up to date. Another attack today. No one has claimed responsibility, but that being in Saudi Arabia. So why is this reach happening, and how far will it reach?
Well, the Islamic State called for a month of holy terror in Ramadan, and they've gotten it. We've had attacks in Orlando, outside of Paris. We had it in Baghdad just on Saturday, a massive truck bomb. Bangladesh, the capital, Dhaka. You know, across
the Russian
board.
airliner, 224 people on board.
That was last
Beirut.
October, right? Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is this thing is spread across the globe. It's a terrorist menace at this point, and the velocity of their attacks has picked up greatly. Basically, they're showing that they're able to carry out operations basically anywhere at any time.
And speaking of at any time, as you're speaking, I'm getting some information about a third possible terror attack that has happened. This information just breaking also in Saudi Arabia, in Medina, and we are working to get the latest information on that for you. But another one, a third one in Saudi Arabia today.
Wouldn't be a surprise at all. I mean, bottom line is Islamic State has picked up its operational tempo on the Arabian Peninsula. It's still not in the Arabian Peninsula. It's still outpaced by Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is still far bigger in Yemen and probably in Saudi Arabia itself. But ISIS has definitely been agitating for attacks there, so wouldn't be surprised at all if there's a new attack by them there.
And we were talking about the statistics, and it's amazing to think of this one. Back in 2001, the year of the 9/11 attacks, there were less than 50 terrorist attacks that whole year. Compare that to these latest numbers.
Right, there were about 50 or less suicide attacks in all of 2001. Now ISIS is more than, or is about doubling that per month. So in the first 6 months of 2016, ISIS has claimed about 100 suicide attacks per month. That shows you how this ideology has spread. We've gone from a point where very few people overall across the globe are willing to die for the jihadist cause, where now you have people on a daily basis almost, or more than a daily basis actually, blowing themselves up in the name of the caliphate. This shows you how the ideology is really spread.
Right, and Benjamin Hall was also talking about the latest information coming out about the terrorists in the Bangladesh incident, saying that they came from privileged families.
Yeah, this isn't just a socioeconomic problem. You see a lot of people try and reduce this to basically poverty or joblessness, something along those lines. That's just not the case. Ideology goes across all socioeconomic factors. And in Bangladesh, you know, this was a big departure for an ISIS-style operation. This was much more targeted, much more deliberate. We have evidence that the attackers actually tried to separate out Muslims from non-Muslims and then killed the non-Muslims. This is a departure really in the ISIS methodology, I would say. Usually they're pretty discriminate.
That's a method that Al-Qaeda has practiced.
Exactly right. This is Al-Qaeda's MO. Al-Qaeda, across the board, everywhere they operate, they try and separate out Muslims from non-Muslims, and they try and target very specifically groups of non-Muslims. Now you see ISIS is sort of imitating that, which is a step up for them, I think, operationally, because usually they're very indiscriminate. You know, you think about the attack in Baghdad on Saturday. A truck bomber drove right into a residential commercial area of Baghdad and blew up a bunch of women and children. There's no targeting there other than the fact that he killed a lot of Shiites.
Right.
You know, for them, that type of sectarian killing serves a purpose. But here in Bangladesh and Dhaka, this was a much more targeted and focused sort of attack.
So what do we do? We're almost out of time, but just quickly. I mean, what can we possibly do to fight that when we have people that are willing to go in and kill themselves?
Bottom line is we're not fighting the ideology really at all. You know, the bottom line is when it comes to something like in Baghdad, this guy isn't some martyr for the cause who died a glorious death. He killed a bunch of women and children. There should be strategic messaging to undermine his claim to glory right away, and yet there isn't any.
At least 25 children and possibly rising in that incident. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.